Well, good morning. Welcome to Tuesday, the 1st of February. Now, last week in the vlog I said that this week I was going to do something completely different. I wasn't going to be covering any form of boat maintenance. Well, it appears I've lied. If you watched last week's vlog, you'll know that I had this issue with my water sensor going off in the inspection hatch. I looked at the water tank at the front of the boat, noticed the lagging was wet, and convinced myself it's because I've been overfilling the tank and the water's found its way under the well deck onto the top of the tank and seeped in and soaked all the lagging, and consequently that has been slowly draining its way through the ballast, which is broken slab, which sits in the cavity below the main deck floor of the boat, and the base plate, the bottom of the boat. So you've always got an air gap with the ballast in. And it's only taken its time to get through because there's a lot of floor area and there's a lot of ballast for it to seep underneath before it gets to the inspection hatch. So it caused me to want to design and make a little gizmo that'll stop me overfilling the tank, and in doing so the water will never reach, when it fills the tank, it will never reach the actual filler pipe or the top of the filler pipe. And there's the two weak points, or possible weak points, because there's obviously a joint at the top and there's a joint at the bottom before you hit the water goes into the tank. So I'm always going to keep the water level below the bottom of the filler pipe. That then eliminates any risk of any water being overfilled in the tank and seeping in anyway. That said, I took the decision to clear out as much of the ballast as I could in the inspection hole, and I decided I would monitor the water. So I've used some absorbent pads that sit in the on the base plate, and the first night I did this, I think it was Friday night, I put it in just before I went to bed, and when I got up Saturday morning, 9 hours later, I wrung out the water that was in the pads, and there was 100mm, so not a great deal. I then decided to leave the pads on Saturday night for a 24-hour period. So they'd actually gone through all day Saturday, right the way through Saturday night up to Sunday morning when I got up. So exactly 24 hours. I wrung the cloths out into a measuring jug, and there was 200 mils. So logically I'm thinking, well, this is good, because if in 9 hours you get 100 mils and in 24 hours you're only getting 200 mils, then it is obviously condensation. Now, at some point in this video I'll show you the ballast that I fitted on the port side, which is the left hand side as you're standing on the back of the boat, in a cavity in the engine room. Is my preempt for when I put the batteries on the starboard side. Now these batteries, is again, if you've been watching the vlogs you'll know, they're 76 kilos each, so that's a quarter of a ton of weight going on one side of the boat. So I'm trying to counteract it in advance. Now it's called trimming, so you want to get the boat so it sits level when you're looking across the back of the boat. You don't want it tipping where the batteries are, so you've got to counterweight it. Now I did that on Sunday, and Sunday night I had a bath. No, I didn't. I had a shower, but we also had a storm. I got up then yesterday morning, which was Monday, and when I came to wring the pads out that had been in again for 24 hours, expecting maybe that 200 mil to have gone down a little bit, maybe just still 200 mil, I wasn't really thinking too much. I got 700 mil. So now it's got me really thinking. I know it's not because of any additional water from filling the tank, because I've deliberately leaving the tank to run down a bit in the front. I've now got to debate if there is pools of water that's been gathering under the floor on the base plate amongst all this broken slab, condensation or leakage. There's a choice, and there's pools of water amongst the slabs. When I put this extra ballast on the port side, the boat will have trimmed a little bit. So if you're looking along its length, it will have trimmed slightly down on the stern. What makes me wonder about these pools of water that I can't see because the boat's obviously got a floor in it, is the alarm originally went off a week ago this morning, and that was 36 hours after I brought one of these heavy 76 kilo batteries onto the back of the boat. So although physically when you look at a boat you're not going to suddenly see it tilting, because 76 kilos isn't a lot when it's a 34-ton boat, but even 1-2 degrees would be enough to make the water that was pooling on the base plate find its way down to the inspection hatch slightly quicker. So when I got up yesterday morning and found 700 mils, now it's definitely a lot more water, I'm wondering if the extra ballast I put in was the reason. I'm wondering if there's a leak in the shower because I took a shower on Sunday night. And I'm wondering whether it's not the shower, it is the ballast, but the combination of the bad weather on the storm we had Sunday night rocking the boat, and she doesn't rock a lot but she moves, has caused these pools of water just to undulate a bit and throw a little bit more towards the back of the boat. So I've now decided I'm eliminating the filler because that will never be a problem again. I'm never going to have water either in the filler tube or allowed to flood over the deck. That is sorted. So today I'm going to investigate if I've got any leaks. And the water pump on Freedom is in the bathroom. Now if you live on a boat or you're looking to live on a boat, it's just the fact that the water pump on a boat is designed to push the water up, sort of, let me reword that, is to pull the water from the water tank and push it around to the taps and the toilet and the shower. Now most boats have their water pump fitted near the water tank at the front of the boat. Now for whatever reason Freedom's water pump is in the bathroom, which is almost midship, middle of the ship. Now these work on water pressure. So if you can imagine, my hand is the water pump, this side of the water pump is the tank, this side of the water pump is the tap. If you turn a tap on, the sensor in the water pump notices a drop in the pressure because the water's coming out these pipes down your tap and automatically pumps water back. It doesn't recognise any pressure from the left because that is the feed. There's no pressured feed, it's non-pressured. So this side of the pump will be under a slight pressure, so when you open the tap, pressure drops, pump kicks in. So in my mind I've eliminated any leaks. I've looked around the pump and I've looked around the water tank, which stands right to the side of the pump in front of it, and I've eliminated leaks in the pipe work from the pump to the rear of the boat, because if there was a leak, pressure would drop, pump would kick in periodically, just to, even if it was only that little that would be enough, I would know. So I've now got to consider the possibility there could be a leak between the pump and the tank. So I've just got to video the ballast that I fitted because I didn't show you that, so I'm going to do that and then cut it in somewhere else. And then I'm going to explain to you, when I'm sat with my coffee, plan of action for today. It's a bit long-winded, but if you've got a water problem on your boat, and you could have, then this is worth, it'll give you some pointers. It even includes using food dye, so see what you think. Right, welcome to the engine bay. I've got some engineering bricks here, and my little task I've just cleared out. Let me just take you down here because I'm having to bob down into a little cavern here. Look, you can just see under here, look. I've got my headlight on. Some bits of timber plank, I think that's from the original doors that was on Freedom on the sides. And I'm going to put, I've got 15 engineering bricks and a couple of slabs, and I've got room for some more stuff to come in. And it's just to add a little bit extra ballast into this side of the port side, obviously to counteract for when the batteries go on to the side. So I'll show you when I've done, because it's a bit limited for space. But yeah, I wasn't going to be doing any boat work this week, but it's as with all things that I do, it's a change of plan. Okay, this is looking towards the port side, the left hand side of Freedom when you're stood in the engine bay facing forward, and in there at the moment there's 15 engineering bricks and 2 very, very dense heavy concrete slabs. These are the ones that I've recently added, and I've got this space above where I can put extra weight when I come to trim the boat, once I've got the heavy batteries in their location. And this to the left, if you're just wondering, that is the actual silencer for the engine. One great big silencer container. Right, so at least you now know the ballast I'm going to be referring to that may have been causing me a bit of a problem. But I've still got to have it there anyway. Right, so this is today's task. Working on several assumptions, I want to eliminate the fact that I may have got the cause of the water under this floor wrong. And the only way I can do that is by eliminating all the other options that it could be. So I haven't filled the water tank. I've left that alone. I've still got about 3/4 of a tank. So the water in the tank is in the tank. It's not in the filler tube where there's a joint at the bottom and a joint at the top. So it eliminates any chance of water seeping from them because they're clear of water. So water being water, it's going to travel downhill. It's not going to travel uphill. And it is getting to the back of the boat. And I do think, as I've just said, that's because I've put the additional battery on the back, and the additional water that I got yesterday when it got to 700 mils, I do think partly is because of the extra slabs and engineering bricks that I've put on. So you've got to initially, first and foremost, think about the trim of your boat. And I don't mean the surfaces and the cushions, etc. So here's my model boat, bit of kindling, front, which is the bow, stern. Now, at the moment, let's try and get that level. Freedom sits from the rear, from the stern, if you look off the pontoon, flat to the water. The ballast that I've put in yesterday, I'll have put in, let me just get this the right way around. This is the port side as I'm looking at it at the moment. So port side starboard. The batteries I'm going to put on are going to be mounted in a container on the starboard side, 1/4 of a ton. So the ballast I've just shown you, I've put on the port side. So that if I didn't have that in there, when I put them 3 batteries on, it's going to do that. Not that extreme, but it will tilt slightly to that side. Bearing in mind she's a wide beam, so to get her to tilt is a lot harder than it would be if it's just a 6.5 foot wide narrow boat. So that is the first part of the trim, is getting your boat to sit flat on the water, not tilted left, not tilted right. So with Freedom, I put the spirit level on, as I said last week in the vlog, and she was sitting from front to back, bow to stern, flat on the water. The bubble was in the middle of the spirit level. Now most boats sit like that. As you look at narrow boats, you'll always sit like that. And I thought, well, not sure why, but maybe they've done it like that so that when I fill the 720 litre fuel tank at the back, again that'll put a lot of weight in, it'll give me that bit of tip. But I also noticed when I did the gas locker that when I painted it out in the summer, I had to remove a great pile of bricks and heavy 56-pound weights. Now my thinking is, and I haven't been able to speak to the original owners because they're away at the moment, that they were put in to give Freedom this level trim, because I think she would have naturally been like that when they bought the hull, because the engine obviously is in the back and that's heavy, and they've put the weights in the front to pull the front end down, simply because they were using Freedom as basically a floating apartment, not as a cruising boat. And as such, they didn't want every time they put a battery on the worktop for it to roll to the back of the boat or feel like they're walking uphill to go to your bedroom. So it's flat. Now, that said, if my problem solely is condensation, as I keep being told by all boaters that, yeah, it's natural, because between the base plate of the boat and the wooden floor that I walk on, there is a gap which is about so deep. And in that gap, half of it is full of broken slab ballast. Now you need that ballast to give your boat additional stability in the water. So there's ballast in there. Now, if it was to remove everything out of the base of my boat, where the living compartment is, from the stern doors to the bow doors, and it was empty, you would have a slab of steel, and obviously the steel that goes up the sides, that's all below the water, so it's going to be cold. And I've estimated this morning, by doing some quick calculations, we're talking about 900 square foot of cold steel, which is going to condensate because the boat's warm, and you're always going to get that clash between the warmth and the cold. Now I know that is something I can't do a great deal about, although I have got some ideas for putting vents in the floor at a future date. So if I've got, as I say, nearly 900 square foot of slab of steel, then on top of that they've put these broken concrete slabs for the ballast. If it is solely condensation and it's running down the sides, where the sides are below the waterline, that's from the gunnels, well, yeah, lower than the gunnels, where the rubbing strips are on the side of the boat, but below the waterline down to the base plate, it's going to have this condensation build-up. Now it's got to go somewhere. Now I don't have a dehumidifier, there's no drains, can't put a drain in the bottom of your boat obviously, so it pools in the bottom of your boat. Now everybody else is telling me, who's been on boats for years, that's fine, because then what will happen is in the summer when everything warms up and it's humid, that will just dissipate and you won't have any, because there'll be no condensation, because the water is warmer, the boat is warmer, the metal on the outside of the top of the boat is hot, so it's going to transfer that heat down the sides below the waterline. Everything gets nice and dry until next winter. So it's a bit of a circle, but it's nothing to worry about. That's what I'm being told. It's also been pointed out to me that Freedom may have had these pools of waters, I'm believing there is under there, for years. And because she is sitting, or was sitting, perfectly flat, and there wasn't an inspection port, I only put that in the summer, out of sight, out of mind. I wasn't worried about it last year because I didn't even know it was there. Now I've put the inspection port in, I know it's there. So it's something that's niggling. I'm going to bed at night thinking, you know, is it a leak? Is it condensation? So today's plan, I'm going to go in the bedroom first and foremost, and I'm going to remove what I thought was a metal panel, but actually I've now realised it's a wooden plank behind the steps of the bow steps. When I showed you the video last week, I only pulled out the little inspection door in that panel. So today I'm going to take the panel out. Now, I can't get behind it physically, but I will be able to get side on with a torch, and I'll be able to see the pipes that feed from the tank into the water system, or the pipes that feed to the kitchen and to the bathroom. Now, as I've already said, at the moment, from the pump forward to the kitchen and the bathroom taps and that, I don't believe there's a problem, because the pump doesn't go off, so there's no water pressure drop. The water pipes are on my starboard side and are on top of the wooden floor, so they are boxed in above the wooden floor. So if there was a leak, the carpets in the bedroom and the hard floor in the kitchen area, the galley area in the lounge, would be wet, because even if it was only a small leak, eventually over a period of time that damp patch would make itself known. Now I've gone around the bedroom where the head of the bed is, because that's the end where the box section is. I'll show you quickly as I go into the bedroom the box section on the port side, because it's easier to show it, where the central heating pipes have been put in, because they're exactly the same scenario. They're in a box. And let's go and get this panel removed, because that's my first thing, to see if I can see where the pipes come across the floor and then drop down into the well deck area where the tank is. There is the only place I believe there could be a leak. If that's not the case, then I'm going to find the gulper pump in the bathroom. That is the pump that takes all your shower water and pushes it into the canal, to see if there's any water leaks visual on there. Doesn't then mean, if there isn't, that isn't the problem, because the shower still could be the problem. Now, my plan is not to do anything regarding the shower tray, for 2 or 3 days and keep taking my showers in the utility blocks here on the marina to see if the water that's gathering in this inspection hatch on a daily basis is getting less and less if I don't use the shower. Obviously, that will then indicate that the tray seal could be the problem. Now, I've bought some food dye, and my ultimate test would then be is to stand in the shower because you need the weight on the tray, run the shower, and pour a watering can of red food dye through the shower, out the gulper. It's not going to do the fish any harm in the marina. It's just a food colour and it's not going to hurt anything. It's not toxic or anything like that. But if there's a leak, then that red water will eventually find its way from that leak into my inspection hatch. Then I know that it's got to be, if the gulper is dry, then it's got to be the seal under the shower tray. I've checked around the washing machine, there's no damp areas there. I've checked under the sink in the kitchen, down in the galley, there's no damp areas there. So if that becomes the case, that there's no indication, even if I put a red dye through the system, that there's a leak, then I know it is solely down to the fact I've got 900 square foot of cold, damp steel that's causing this small amount of water to gather. And at least then I know I haven't got a leak. So yeah, a bit of a long-winded rabbiting on about the situation, but if you're in the situation I am and you're out on the water, don't phone the engineer first, work through it. If you haven't got an inspection port at the stern end of your boat, put one in. They're not a big, look at the vlog, I did a vlog on it, I think it was vlog 56, 57. It's frightening to do when you have to cut a hole in your floor, but you don't forget you're cutting the hole in the wooden floor, not in the base plate, so you're fine. And get yourself an inspection hatch, because when your boat's tipping backwards, that's your first indicator, because the water will naturally drain into that hatch. You can just take the lid off and you'll be able to see for yourself. Right, let me show you how the pipes are boxed in. Let's go and get this front cover removed and let's see if I can find a leak. Fingers crossed I do, because at least then it all makes sense. It's hard to get your head around condensation. It's easy to get your head around a leak. Come on, let's go. Excuse a bit of wood, I've put that there, it's just a broom handle to hold the steps up out the way. So, last week in the vlog, I removed that panel, little inspection panel, so I could get to see the bottom of the tank. So today, we're going to remove, or hopefully remove, this panel. Because I thought this was metal, but it turns out it's a wooden fascia plate. So, let's see what we can find behind. Right, well that scuppered that idea. I thought that this panel would just simply be held on with the 3 sets of screws on the sides and the steps where they're holding it to the frame. It appears not. So for now, I've got to assume, and there's an answer to this in a minute, I've got to assume that where the pipes drop down into the floor of the well deck, to the bottom of the tank to get the fresh water, that the pump then pulls up and into the system, I've got to assume that the joints are fine. Now, there is another way I can check for that. As I've already said, where the box section of pipe is, I know there isn't a leak because the floor would be wet. Definitely would have, it would have naturally crept into the carpet and it would be damp. I've checked right across that side of the boat, floors are dry and the carpets are dry. So it's not the pipe work above the wooden floor in the boat, but the ones near the tank are actually below the wooden floor in that cavity where the ballast and everything else would be. Now, because at the moment it's a case of either rip the whole of this, not just this panel, but half the flipping bulkhead out, just to see, my course of action is I'm going to now check on the gulper, which is the pump that empties my shower, to see if the floor below that is dry. And if it is, then I'm going to use the red food dye I'm going to run the shower in a couple of days' time. I'm not going to do it straight away, as I've said earlier. I'm going to leave it to see, without putting any more weight on the back of the boat, without having the shower on, if the water in the back of the boat starts to dry up, as in go from, what it was yesterday, it was 700 mils. Today it's gone down 43%. It's now down to 400 mil. So if tomorrow it comes below 400 mil, I know that it can't be a major leak, because that level would be the same whether it was what day it is, doesn't matter. Now if it levels off at 100, 200 mils, bearing in mind, as I've said, there's 900 square feet of cold steel, I guess that's acceptable, because you're going to get condensation. There's nothing I can do about that unless I put a warm air blower in there permanently. Nobody's going to do that. So if that's the case, then, as I say, my next line of attack, once that levels off at 200 mils a day, I'm going to do the red food dye down the outlet of the shower whilst I'm stood in the shower. So I've got my weight on the shower tray, just in case that seal's gone. And then within a 36 hour window, if there's a problem under that shower that I can't physically see, the red dye will show it, because it'll have drained to the very back where the problem is clear to see in the inspection hatch. Now I'm hoping if I do that test 2 to 3 days later, the water can still be there because the condensation will still be there, but there's no dye. Now the only other place there could be a leak is these pipes here, the 2 pipes, I think there's 2 pipes, there may only be 1, to the water tank that I can't physically get to. So I know it sounds a bit drastic, but my tank by then will be maybe half a tank, quarter of a tank. I'm going to add 2 bottles of yellow food dye into my water tank. Now it's just food dye. It's not going to hurt anything. It's not going to hurt the fish. You know, it's not going to turn me yellow or anything like that. But when I turn the tap on to wash my hands or have a wash, the water's going to come out with that dye in it. Nothing to worry about, because the next time I fill the tank up, it'll dilute. The next time I fill the tank up, it'll dilute, and eventually it'll have gone. But if when I've got a quarter tank of yellow water, I find I've got yellow water in my inspection hatch in 2 to 3 days after I've put it in, then it's pretty clear that there is a leak between the tank and the floor of freedom, which is that little bit of pipe I can't get to. Then it's justifiable to have to spend hours getting all this lot off, because obviously once you've got it off, you've got to get it all back on again, and I need it to look neat. I'd be a bit disappointed if I rip it all out only to find there's no leak. So doing the colour dye is the easier way. It will take a while, because the water, if it is a leak, has got to creep its way down. But when I come to wring the cloths out in the morning into the jug where I'm measuring, I will be able to see a difference in the colour, and that yellow dye will be present if that pipe leaks. The same is the red dye will be present if my shower tray leaks. So let's go and have a look at the gulper, because that I can get to, I believe, and let's check that there's definitely not a leak on there. Right, now, because I can't do any more with the bulkhead panel at the moment, and like I've just said, we're going to assume, which is not the best thing to do, but we are going to assume that it's definitely not leaking for now. Behind this shelf, I took all the things off. It needs a wash, this shelf does. This is obviously the top of my accumulator. I might be able to see what the pressure regulator settings are on it now. I can see it around the back. And I'll just move you forward and tilt you. This is the gulper. Now this is the pump that pumps the water out of the shower out to the side of the boat. Now I'm going to get me a mirror. I've got an expendable mirror, and get it down there with a torch, and I'm going to have a quick look to see if there's any damp on the floor. Right, I apologise if the head torch starts to make the flickering effect on the actual film. Right, I can see right down to the floor now on that side of the pump using this extendable mirror, and and again on this side. I'm going to have to move you out the way whilst I check. I've got to get my head behind here, and there isn't a lot of space. Just wanted the labels on. There's a label on there, that's what I've been looking for pressure. It doesn't tell me. But it looks of it. Right, I'm going to have to quickly move you while I get my head in there, just to see if I can physically see down behind the pipe work. Right, everything on the floor, which is directly above the ballast, is bone dry. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to run the shower with the gulper on, just in case it's a leak that's caused, obviously, when it's doing its job. So it makes a bit of a noise, it's because you're very close to the pump. Bear with me. Right, everything there is perfectly dry. Let me just turn that shower up. Right, so that eliminates, for now, the shower and the gulper. Let's keep searching. So, can't get the panel off. Well, not easily get the panel off. And the chance I'm going to be doing that to look at one, maybe 2 joints. So yes, there's still a possibility of being a problem. I'm pleased that there's no water damp marks around the bottom of the shower or the gulper. Now, yes, it's possible. I've only run the shower with the gulper on. I haven't stood in the shower. So there still could be the possibility of the seal in the tray allowing some water through whenever I shower. But my thinking is, I used the shower on Sunday night, so 24-25 hours ago, maybe a bit more. That wooden floor area around the shower would still be wet had there been a problem. So at the moment, at least I now know the gulper itself is bone dry, the water pump is bone dry, the pipes between the water pump and the bulkhead leading to the tank are bone dry, as is the pipes under the kitchen sink and in the behind the washing machine. All that area is dry. So it limits it a little bit now down to possibility of a couple of joints in the tank area. The floor in there is damp, but it's a stainless steel tank, and when you look at it you can actually see droplets of water on the side of it, because again it's full of cold water, and the outside is going to be slightly warmer, so you're going to get condensation. The carpets everywhere are dry, as I say, and the floors are all dry. So it could be the seal in the shower tray base when I'm stood on it, but it wouldn't have dried out. I mean, my boat's warm, but the bathroom's only slightly warm. It's not hot like the rest of the boat. So I don't think for one moment, if that shower has been wetting that floor week after week after week while I've been showering every day, it would be bone dry today. It just wouldn't. So I know that it's not going to be that seal. So I don't think I'm going to do the red dye test. What I am going to do is continue using the shower blocks here at Mercia, and don't have a shower, and don't fill my tank until I've finished my little design, which I'm going to take you to in a minute when the rest of the bits arrive, and monitor the water that's going into the hatch. I'm imagining if it is just the condensation, it will eventually come down to 100-200 mils a day, which across 900 square foot isn't a great deal. Honestly, it's not. In fact, I'll take a picture of the average, which is 150 mil, in a wine glass in a minute, so you can actually gauge. And then what you've got to remember, as I say, that amount of water is spread across 900 square foot. And yes, obviously every day I mop it out, it comes back, because it's going to be producing condensation all the time. Now, there's no condensation inside the boat, let me stress that. I don't suffer from any mould. I get people on forums that I look at saying, oh, the clothes in the wardrobe have gone mouldy, or the back of me headboard's gone mouldy, or my mattress is going mouldy. There's none of that. I don't get condensation on the windows. I don't get any damp behind cupboards or inside cupboards. It's really a nice dry boat, and that could be part of the issue. The boat is lovely and warm, and the floor under the boat is stone cold, so that might be generating that little bit more condensation. I don't know, But I'll show you the average, which is 150 mils of water in a wine glass, so you can have a look. So for now, my plan of action is monitor, monitor, monitor. I log every morning at 7 o'clock how much water I screw out of these cloths into a jug. And then I can also, if it suddenly increases like it did yesterday morning, I can look back over that previous 24 hours and ask myself, what was different? So on Sunday, I'd had the shower, we had the storm, and I'd put extra ballast on the back of the boat. Any one of those three factors initially could have been the problem. Now, I don't believe it's the shower. So I think it's the extra ballast I'd put on the back of the boat, ready for the batteries coming in. It's given me that bit more trim. And as I keep saying, I believe there's pools of water. You know, we're not talking swimming pools full, but it's just puddles. Because even though it's a flat bottom boat, you're going to have undulations in the steel. You're going to have build-ups where the gravel on the bottoms of the slabs that they've used, because you're always going to get bits off of slabs, it's like sandy texture, are going to make little dams in between the slabs, so the water will gather, you know, the condensation will gather. But if I'm only taking out 150 mils on average per day, for now, I'm not going to worry. If I'm taking out water in the summer, because I'll still be monitoring it, then I know I've got to really start hunting, because something will be putting that water in there. And but for now, I'm monitoring. I'm going to make a coffee, and then I'm going to show you 150 mils of water in a photo, and I'm going to have a chill. So that is 150 mils of water, and what you've got to remember, you've got to spread that over 900 square feet. Now, anybody who's got a I can never say it, a damp remover, dehumidifier, will know that if they only got that out of their inside of their boat that's warm, they'd be very happy in a day. I'm getting that from the underside of the floor, where obviously there's a lot of cold metal. So I'm aiming to get that down to about 100 mil, and then I'll sleep better at night. So I've got to get about a third of that gone on a daily collection, and then I know that I'm definitely only on the minimum amount of condensation, and I won't be stressing. So there you have it. It's been a few days this week solely focusing on trying to get my head around whether I've got a condensation on the base plate issue, whether it's pipe leaking issue, whether it's overfilling the water tank issue. Each one of these issues, I have tried to address the best I can. It is now, what day is it? It's Wednesday. So this vlog will come out in a couple of days. But on Monday, as I've already said in the vlog, I ended up with 700 millilitres of water in the inspection hatch. Previously, I'd put the ballast in the back of the boat. Tuesday morning, that had reduced on the next mop out to 400 mils, and this morning it's reduced down to 280 mils. So I don't really think I've got a leak. I really don't. I think it's a combination of the condensation on the base plate gathering and gently getting to the back of the boat. Now I've put a little bit of a trim, I mean the boat's now got a little, it's not that much, but it's got a bit of an angle on it, and the water that I release from around the lagging on the water tank, which is a stainless steel tank, which I'm being reassured by everybody who's got one, do create quite a lot of condensation, which obviously then is going to drop onto the base plate and eventually find its way to the back of the boat. And yesterday, when I was trying to remove the bulkhead panel, I did get my hand in around the tank where that lagging was absolutely wringing wet last Tuesday. And yes, it was still damp, but by crikey, it wasn't anywhere near as wet. So that water has got to have gone somewhere. And I believe, again, water being what it is and it's heavy, it will have run down the lagging on the side of the tank since I've split the bag, and dripped and dripped and dripped. So the lagging's getting drier, but the water's got to make its way to the back of the boat. So I will update you next week, but I'm hoping not to be doing any more vlogs on the water other than updates. because I'm getting my head around it, I think. There's no cider of the week this week. Reason being, I've spent far too long on the water issue, and I've got some news on cider of the week next week to share with you. And so that is going to be it. I'm going to have a cup of coffee. I then got to edit all this lot together and try and make sense of it all, so you will understand what I've been doing and my reasoning. I know it's been a bit long-winded, but trust me, if you're out on the cut and you discover you've got water in the bottom of your boat, at least you've got some suggestions from these last couple of vlogs of the reasons and the ways of determining whether or not you've got an actual emergency, or whether it's just, you know, what happens on boats. And today I was just talking to a chap on the field while I'm out walking Misty, who's got a narrow boat, and he was happily telling me that yesterday he mopped out and wrung out cloths into 2 washing up bowls. He got 2 washing up bowls of water, and I'm worrying if I get 300 mils. So maybe I've just been worrying for nothing. We'll see. So till next week, from Misty and me, I can't say cheer because I haven't even got a cider. Take care, and we'll see you then.